Okay, so now I've got your attention, let's start. For my regular viewers, you may remember a couple of videos ago that I said I was thinking of putting a video together about how to drive on Thai roads without killing yourself. So here we go. A lot of stuff you see on the internet would lead you to believe that driving in Thailand is like a cross between Death Race 2000 and that wonderful old video game Carmageddon. There's no denying, if you look at the statistics, that Thailand isn't exactly the safest place to drive. And if you go on numbers alone, I think they're now saying it's got the highest deaths per capita in the world, and it definitely has the worst figures for motorbike fatalities. However, if you apply a bit of common sense to driving over here, it's not exactly that difficult. If you come here and think it's going to be like driving in your home country, you're going to get into difficulties very, very quickly. You need to learn how the Thais think about driving, what their focus is, what their priorities are. Change your driving technique accordingly. One thing I am saying though, or one thing I am not saying, is that you do not want to drive like a Thai, because that will get you in even bigger problems than trying to drive like back home. But basically you need to understand what the Thais drive like. To give you a bit of background about my driving experience, I'm certainly not putting myself forward as God's gift to driving or a world expert on the subject. However, I have since 1993 worked as a professional driver, and here's a selection of vehicles that I've driven during that time. Okay, I've moved indoors now because it was getting far too noisy outside, too much traffic, building noise, etc, etc. So I'm just about to show you a diagram, which is something I found on the internet actually before I moved to Thailand, which depicts what a typical Thai driver will see as his or her area of responsibility. As you can see, it's about a 120-degree arc in front of the vehicle and to either side. Mirrors are fitted in Thailand, but don't seem to get used very often. So if you are in front of another driver, that driver is responsible to making sure nothing untoward happens between you two, but if they overtake you, responsibility passes to you because they are in front of you and within your area of responsibility. During the time I spent as a bus driver in London, they introduced a new qualification called the CPC, which was basically something beyond a standard driving licence, and we had to do over the course of 5 years 37.5 hours training to maintain the CPC. And most of the courses were, what is a better expression, about as much use as a hole in the head. But one that was very useful was something called the Smith system of advanced driving. This was devised by an American guy called Harold Smith and was started in 1952. And is used by an awful lot of the trucking companies and public transport companies in America, and it was recently filtered its way over to the UK and is used by most of the bus companies and some other trucking companies as well. The Smith system is based on 5 principles, and it's something I have found very useful for applying driving over here, because basically it is a prevention rather than a cure. If you can avoid getting in situations where you're putting yourself in danger, then you've won the battle before you've even started. So I'll quickly run over the 5 principles of the Smith system. Number 1, this is going to sound a bit like the Prime Minister's address on a Friday night. He loves his list of things that he's doing or will be doing. But number 1 is aim high in steering, which sounds a bit strange. Basically what they're saying is that you need to look a lot further ahead down the road than you were probably taught when you learned to drive your car or your motorbike. I think they say 6, 7, 8 seconds. Smith system advocates at least 15 seconds ahead of you on the road. Believe me, it makes a hell of a difference to your perception of what is going on. It takes a bit of getting used to. You can, when you start, actually miss out on something that's happening under your nose. So we counteract that by one of the other principles, which we'll come to very quickly. But so basically, look as far down the road as you can and see what is going on and what might happen further down the road that will affect your situation. Number 2, get the big picture. I think something the UK politicians have been using over the past few years. Again, you need to be aware of absolutely everything that is happening around you. Not just, if you think back to the diagram I just showed you a few minutes ago, not what is happening in a 120-degree arc about 10 yards in front of you. You need to see everything around you on the road, parked cars, things like petrol stations, where notoriously here actually you're just pulling out of petrol stations without looking. So just take note of actually everything that's happening around you. Number 3 is keep your eyes moving. Don't develop a stare, the typical glazed stare of driving down the road looking straight ahead of you. And it's actually something I've found on a motorbike that you really need to concentrate on, because I don't know about anybody else, but I've found wearing a full face helmet with the visor down, I sort of feel detached from what's going on around me, almost like I'm a third party looking in on what's going on, which is actually why I tend to drive with the visor open as much as I can. But if you keep your eyes moving all the time, it will keep your concentration going. It means you're paying attention to what's happening around you, which in this country is a lot more important than probably most countries in the world. Number 4, and this is a lifesaver here, is always leave yourself an out. Basically never get yourself in a situation where you can't take any action to avoid what you can see unfolding in front of you. If you think of horse racing, particularly flat horse racing, you find some jockeys get their horses trapped against a fence and surrounded by other horses. They can either go forwards, backwards, sideways or anywhere. It doesn't matter where you go, you can't get away from the noise. There's a helicopter fly over the house now. Right, where was I? So always leave yourself an out. So If you pull up to traffic lights, don't pull up behind the back bumper of the vehicle in front of you. Obvious one, don't drive too close to people so that you can't manoeuvre away from them, around them, whichever way you need to go to get out of any predicament. The way I tend to look at it is I try and keep a bubble around myself. Not always possible, but a safe area where there's nobody else encroaching on that area, and then I can go forwards, backwards, left, right. Saves an awful lot of potential problems. And fifth and lastly is make sure you can be seen. So I see so many vehicles in this country driving at night, particularly motorbikes with no lights on. In fact, to go to the extreme, you can get people driving on the hard shoulder on a dual carriageway on the wrong side of the road going against the traffic on a motorbike with no lights on whatsoever, which to me is just crazy. So make sure you're always lit up when you need to be lit up. Use your indicators. Make sure everybody else knows what you're doing and they can see what you are doing. So if you use those 5 principles on the roads over here, it will go a long way towards keeping you safe. I've been here a year now, and the nearest thing I've come to having an accident is some idiot opening their car door as I was going past. Fortunately, I was paying enough attention that I realised there was a possibility that might happen, and I managed to avoid any collision. So I hope you found that useful, particularly anybody who's coming over to Thailand for holidays or to live here. And maybe some of the people who are already living in Thailand who are probably getting frustrated by what they see on the roads. It's very easy to get annoyed, frustrated, exasperated, you name it, on the roads here. I do sometimes. I'm thankful for a full face helmet at times, because then the people can't hear what I'm mumbling away to myself, none of which is very complimentary. But you know, don't let it get to you. Just accept it for what it is, and if you use common sense, or even the principles I've just gone over, which basically are just common sense, you won't have any problem. I've seen so much rubbish being put on the internet over the past few months. I mean, the one guy who lives in Chiang Mai posted a video saying he wouldn't drive his scooter outside the city limits, wouldn't go on the highways. Well, that's just mental to me. I mean, what would you rather do? Drive on roads that are jam-packed with vehicles and you're fighting for road space, or drive on a 4-lane dual carriageway where you see one car every quarter of an hour? It's a no-brainer to me. Admittedly, if you're involved in an accident on the highway, it's liable to be more serious because of the speeds involved. But again, if you look far enough in front and see what's happening all around you, you know, you've won half the battle already. So, wherever you are, drive safely. If you're in Thailand, drive very safely. And as I say, I hope this video has been of use to the people watching it. If you have enjoyed this video, please share and like, and a subscription to the channel would be most appreciated. Thank you very much.